Why is Union Theological Seminary participating in the climate march?
Well, the real question is, why isn't every single religious person in the United States getting to this climate march? At Union, we deeply believe that your Christian faith, your faith in God, and your commitment to love in the world means that you need to be committed to social justice. And right now, there is no greater social justice issue on our planet than climate change.
Well, earlier this year, your seminary took a bold step in divesting from the fossil fuel industry. Could you talk about that decision, coming to it, and the impact it's had on the religious community in the country?
Yes, we were very proud to be the first seminary in the world to divest, and we did it for the usually understood political, economic, and social reasons. But for us, the guiding force behind it was our faith commitment. We believe that as people of faith, we are charged, we are morally accountable for care of the earth, and to not engage in divestment and to back away from climate change is to really, to use religious language, to be sinful.
Can you talk about the other churches that have divested?
Yes, we were very supported by the United Church of Christ. The Presbyterians are right now in the process of considering it, and the list is growing daily. The churches, in one sense, are way ahead of the seminaries in this regard.
And has the World Council of Churches also?
World Council of Churches, yes, who are meeting at Union this weekend to be part of this summit. They have divested.
What about the other part of that, divesting from fossil fuels, but where you reinvest?
Yes, and that is also a part of what we are exploring with respect to divestment. What we've discovered in our portfolio is there's a number of fossil fuel companies who are themselves trying to shift their resources to alternative resources like wind and sun. And we're figuring out how in our portfolio to support that by shifting our resources in that direction.
And Lydia Nakpil, the importance of this particular march coming just before the UN Climate Summit, and specifically how in the Philippines this has become such a major issue.
Well, the Philippines is one of the most vulnerable countries to the impacts of climate change. Typhoons are a reality in the Philippines, but in the last few years, we have been visited by ever-increasing number and magnitude of super typhoons. I think the last one that the world has really come to know a lot about was Typhoon Haiyan, which was the strongest typhoon ever to hit landfall in recorded human history, we were told. And this typhoon has caused more than 2 million people to be homeless, and has caused more than 10,000 deaths in just a matter of a few days. So this issue is really important for us. There are several of us who are here to be in solidarity with the march. That is our actually foremost concern, not so much with the UN Climate Summit, from which we're expecting very little, I'm sorry to say.
Well, we'll talk about that in a minute, but we are also joined by Clayton Thomas Muller, who is an indigenous rights and environmental justice activist and writer, leading the campaign, one of the leaders of the Idle No More campaign, co-director of the Indigenous Tar Sands campaign of the Polaris Institute, came down from Canada. Clayton Thomas Muller is a member of the Matthias Colomb Cree Nation in northern Manitoba, Canada, living in Ottawa. Here for the People's Climate March. Welcome to Democracy Now! Forgive me if I mispronounced any part of that.
You did well.
Why come down from Canada?
Well, Idle No More, along with hundreds of other Indigenous communities and organizations the world over, have sent representatives here to participate and join in the tens of thousands, hopefully hundreds of thousands, that'll be marching in the streets on Sunday. I think, as mentioned by my sister from the Philippines, Indigenous peoples the world over are the most vulnerable when we think about the impacts of climate change, whether it's forest-dependent peoples, coastal-dependent peoples, and of course, Indigenous peoples in the high Arctic are experiencing climate change on a compounding rate much worse than many other regions on the planet. And there's a double-edged blade there, because Indigenous communities also also happen to be experiencing the frontline impacts of the fossil fuel regime. You know, everywhere that big oil is operating in Canada, you know, we have the controversial Canadian tar sands, and Cree and Dene communities have massive cancer clusters occurring in their community because of the bioregional contamination that's happening from big oil's footprint in their lands. And so there's great concern about the lack of concrete political action from world leaders, and Indigenous leaders have converged here in New York City to send a very clear and direct message that our movement is strong, and it's converging with other movements to put pressure on President Obama and, of course, on our own Prime Minister Stephen Harper and other world leaders to take concrete action on climate change.